Should we get started on talking about the 2 minutes name?
Yeah. Well, I guess yeah. I mean, how do you want to go about that? I guess the point of the
Oh, we
name in general is just the whole point of it goes back to one of my favorite topics from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, which is all it takes to start anything at all is just 2 minutes of doing the thing, whatever the thing is. And my whole ideology behind 2 minutes is removing the pressure on like our generation that they have to do something for 30 minutes or 15 minutes. Our attention span has been socially like whittled down to like less than 2 minutes. And instead of trying to fight that, I think we should adapt to it and use it to our advantage. A lot of people like either like, oh, you need to start reading. All right, I'm going to read for 30 minutes today. That's an incredible amount of pressure on our generation. Like a lot of us, when we hear that, we're like, I don't want to fucking do that. Like 30 minutes of reading sounds horrible, but 2 minutes of reading, you're like, that's really not that bad. I've got 2 minutes. Like I can pick up this book for 2 minutes and maybe I'll get 2 or 3 pages in and sweet, whatever. It removes a lot of pressure. And I think moving forward, we need to adapt to the shorter attention span and not try to pressure people to a 30-minute, 40-minute, an hour attention span to try to do a specific thing because society has now just beaten down our attention span to less than 2 minutes. And we just need to figure out how to adapt to it to move forward successfully. And I think a lot of people just feel incredibly pressured when trying to grow or trying to pick up new hobbies or fix their health, fix their mental health, because they think they have to make these massive chomps, these massive like bites at fixing their life or fixing themselves or whatever they think they need to fix. And I think removing that pressure and showing everybody how we break things down into 2 minutes to just make massive changes in life, because it goes back to the story of the tortoise and the hare. Like the hare tried to do a bunch really quick and then he got distracted. And then he would try to do a bunch really quick and then he was distracted for a really long time. Whereas the tortoise was making just like this little move forward. Just these, and if you think about it, it's like a little 2 minutes here, a little 2 minutes here, 2 minutes here. And those add up. Like those add up for any goal. It's not the trying to get 1,000 reps in one day. Obviously we do that shit. Like we do 1,000 reps in one day, but we didn't get there by doing 1,000 reps in one day. We got there by the first 10 reps, just doing 10 reps. And I think that's really important, especially when working out. Like remove the need for doing 100 reps. Remove the idea that you need to do 1,000 reps in one time. Like it's not conducive to like starting anything. It's just going to set you behind mentally. You're going to be like, I don't want to do that. That's stressful. That sucks. So to me, 2 minutes, that's where that kind of our whole philosophy is like built around, is that whole reducing the stress and the pressure on what you want to accomplish by just breaking it down to just doing it for 2 minutes and then stopping. Just stop after 2 minutes for an hour, a day. It's okay. Just 2 minutes once a day. That's all it takes. And you can build something absolutely amazing. You can build something absolutely
sure.
unstoppable.
Yeah, I like to think of the example for me personally is reading, because if I sit down and read, the longer period that I read for, the less information I retain, I believe. Because I mean, I feel like, I don't know if it's my short attention span or whatever it is, but the longer I start to read, the more it seems to, the less attention, and my brain likes to wander. And so I think 2 minutes is a good way to start, where can I focus for 2 minutes? Yeah. And like, will I retain what I did for that 2 minutes if I just give 100% to that 2 minutes? I mean, is it easy to give 100% to 2 minutes? I think 2 minutes is a reasonable time. And so what I found is just reading a chapter, like just for a few minutes to 2 minutes, it's just, I'm going to retain that information. I'm going to focus on that. And I'm not just going to my brain's not going to wander off. And it's an easy thing to do every day, and it accumulates over time.
Yeah. No,
but I think it's important to also that it starts with 2 minutes, but obviously it could grow from that, yeah. 2 minutes to life.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the point, is like the point of 2 minutes is to build a habit. Okay. And to build a habit, don't aim for 30 minutes of doing the habit. You're going to be overwhelmed and you're not going to do it tomorrow. You try to aim for 30 minutes today. And this is why a lot of people, when they're trying to clean up their house, they're like, I'm going to clean my whole house, and they take an Adderall or whatever, or 3 cups of coffee, and they clean their entire house. And then they don't clean it again for like a month. And they're like, I just want to be clean. I just want to be clean. Like, all right, set your timer for 2 minutes. You're only allowed to clean for 2 minutes. Okay. And it's like, what are you going to do in those 2 minutes? You're going to maximize the shit out of that time. You're going to be like, what can I do in 2 minutes? And you're going to set the timer and you're going to get some stuff done. And you're like, all right, I'm done. And then tomorrow you have to do another 2 minutes. And that's it. You have to stop. And after a week, you're going to be like, no, I kind of want to move this to 5 minutes. But after a week, you've already started creating that connection in the brain, that I'm clean connection, that like I like to live a clean lifestyle, because you've just attacked for 2 minutes every single day. And after 7 days, that connection is already substantially there. It's already built up. And so next week, you're like, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like 5 minutes, like you can do 5 minutes. You can give yourself 5 minutes, do a little more dishes, do a little more whatever. And after 2 weeks, you are now building like a very strong habit. And 3 weeks of 5 minutes, 2 minutes to 5 minutes, and say the third week, you're like, I want to do like 8 minutes. I don't want to put too much pressure. I want to do 10 minutes. Maybe 10 minutes of cleaning. I can do it every day, and I end up going over my 5 minutes anyway, so I'm just going to set the timer for 10 minutes. And after 3 weeks of doing this, you're going to find your home is incredibly clean, and now you've built a habit of cleaning for 10 minutes a day. And that's huge. Like, you've now built the habit of living a clean life. And it just comes down to removing the pressure of trying to do everything all at once. Remove the 50 reps, remove the 100 reps, just go down to the 2 minutes. It makes things so much easier.
Well, I think that's the beautiful thing of good habits too, is they complement one each other. Like you build the habit of cleaning, and that's going to complement other habits and start other habits in your life. If you clean the area you live in, you're going to clean a lot of other portions of your life as well. So
yeah, no, yeah, that's like, there's a lot of things you can do in 2 minutes too. There's a lot of different, something I had sent you this morning, the power stances, which I thought was crazy, because that also comes down to 2 minutes. The power stance, like the Superman stance or like the Wonder Woman stance, or holding your arms behind your head and relaxing. Apparently, there was a Harvard study. I can't remember what his name is. I think it's Tony Robbins talks about it. Is that there was a Harvard study that was done, and just holding your hands at your side in a power stance. The Harvard study, they've done this, and apparently it increases testosterone by 20% after just 2 minutes of holding a power stance, and it decreases cortisol levels by 25%, which is the stress-related hormone. And that's crazy. Like, that's insane. To be able to increase your testosterone by 20% just by standing a specific way, that's insane. And just for 2 minutes, you've just changed your entire day. You've changed like everything about you.
I think it's interesting, all the little things that you could do, natural things that you could do to increase your testosterone that no one's doing, or in general, I guess just improve your life.
I mean, creatine. It takes me 2 minutes to make my creatine, like in the morning. I heat up my water for a minute, because that's another thing. Like, you have to bond the monohydrate to something. And I don't know this, you shouldn't microwave things. You should move away from the microwave. But this is what I did for a long time, is I just take a cup of water and I'd stick it in the microwave for a minute until it was warm. And this is something about creatine that I think a lot of people need to know. Is creatine by itself, creatine monohydrate, not HCl or not crealkaline, but creatine monohydrate isn't bonded to anything. And so it's not water soluble. And so when you just mix it into cold water and you drink it, you're only absorbing around, like, I think it was 15% of it, 15 to 20% of it, and you're just pissing out the rest. But if you bond it to something like a sugar or a salt in hot water, and you'll notice this too, when you mix creatine monohydrate into cold water and you mix it, it doesn't dissolve. It just stays this powder form spinning around in this water, and you can mix it as much as you want, and you're going to be like, there's still powder. There's still a ton of powder in here. Most people just chug it like whatever. And then they don't realize that they're just peeing out the rest. And so you should bond it to something. And something I found on the internet was bonding it to a salt or bonding it to a sugar. So I do both. So I'll put honey and sea salt. Mainly sea salt because it has a lot of trace minerals in it, and I like getting those trace minerals in. So I'll do my 5 grams of creatine, and you'll notice the difference. You'll see the difference. So you put a little bit of salt in your warm water, and then your creatine, and you mix it up, and it's gone. It's just completely dissolved, and you're like, "There's no powder in this. This just looks like water now." Instead of this like murky white, like cold water, and you chug it, and you end up being able to utilize like 80 to 90% of it. And I think that's a huge thing. Like, you'll notice the physical differences in your body when you actually get creatine in. A lot of people try creatine and they're like, I don't notice anything. Like, I'm not feeling any different. And it's because their body's not actually taking it in. It's not absorbing it. They're just peeing it all out. They get a little bit. They're like, I don't hardly know if I'm feeling anything. I'm just going to stop doing this. It's monumentously different, and the experience is completely different when you bond it to something and then you take it. Then you're like, whoa, I feel good. Because what a lot of people don't understand about creatine is it's one of the main forms of creating energy in the body. So we learned this in biology. What is energy in the body? It's just ATP, right? And one of the main processes of creating energy, creating ATP, is ATP-PC, adenosine triphosphate phosphocreatine. You have to have creatine to produce energy, to produce one of the most like functional explosive forms of energy for training or working out or anything like that. And if you're not getting it in natural sources, like I think the daily recommended amount of creatine used to be like 3.8 grams a day. I think it was what it was per 150 pounds of body weight. I can't remember if that was right. I think it went down. I think they brought that down a little bit, but the highest concentrations of creatine in all of your food is in beef or fish. And it's 1 gram per pound of beef. And that's like it's like 1.3 grams per pound of beef. So to get your allotted amount of creatine, you've got to be eating 3 pounds of beef every day. And that's just because our beef has been so like brutally like dumbed down over the last like 20, 30 years. It's just they're going for mass now. They're actually not going for quality anymore.
Yeah.
And so you can't get that creatine. Nobody's going to eat 3 pounds of beef unless you're like a bodybuilder. And so you should be, I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying it's advisable to look into ways of supplementing what you're missing. And if this is something I learned, like I was taking naps every day at like 2 p.m., 3 p.m. And I'm like, man, I'm always tired, man. I'm always tired around 2 p.m. I'm always tired around 3 p.m. It's like, what's wrong with me? And turns out I was just deficient in creatine. Like I just didn't have enough creatine in my system. And so when I started supplementing it, it's like, oh, I've got energy all day. Like I feel really good, like all day long. And it's because one of the main forms of creating energy, you got to have creatine to create it, to make ATP. And so that's something that most people will notice the difference, especially if they bond it to something and they drink it throughout the day. They're gonna be like, I feel freaking amazing. Like, you want to fire your doctor in 30 seconds, start a loading phase of 20 grams of creatine a day. Tell me you don't feel absolutely amazing. Like, bond it to something and take 20 grams of creatine. Obviously, consult your physician beforehand. I have to say this, I have to preface by always consult the doctor before starting any new supplements or anything like that. But try it. Try 20 grams. Try a loading phase for 7 days, and you can't tell me you don't feel 100 times different after that.
So
that's
when it comes to bonding with creatine, like for example, if you mix your creatine in with your protein powder,
that bonds it.
Is that an effective way to do something?
Yeah.
So as long as you have something with sugar or salt in it, it's going to be effective.
So juices, they used to. This is a
how much of sugar and how much of salt do you need though to bond? Gram per gram?
I don't know exactly how much, but it's actually a lot less than you'd think. So you can test this out yourself with 5 grams of creatine. So when I would make my creatine in the mornings, I would just put literally a dash of sea salt in it, and then all of the creatine would just disappear, and I'd be like, oh snap, like that worked really well. I would say it may be gram for gram, but you can try less than that. For salt, I take every day I do a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. And I advise that to anybody who's trying to reduce fatigue and have more energy in the day, is take in more salt. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, salt's bad for you. No, you lose a lot of salt in a day. When you pee, when you sweat, and you have to replace that salt. And if you're not replacing it in your diet, you're going to feel more tired. And I'm not talking about iodized like table salt. That shit's terrible for you. I'm talking sea salt or Himalayan salt. I found personally, I don't see much of an effect with Himalayan salt. I don't know if it's due to the lack of The trace minerals are what I found an increasingly like higher benefit to utilizing sea salt before my workouts, and so that's my aim. Is I choose to use sea salt, but you don't need that much. Like I'll use just a couple drops of honey, and sometimes I'll just add honey just because it is a sugar that I prefer over cane sugar or any other kind of sugar. Really, honey is one of the like healthier kinds. And also honey has a ton of trace minerals in it, like a ton of trace minerals. So you don't need that much. But yeah, like you said, in protein, you can add your creatine to protein, and that gives it something like to actually bond with. There's sugars in there. There's natural sugars. There's salts in there that it can immediately bond to. And so proteins, juices. A lot of people used to use orange juice or apple juice. That was a huge thing back in like early 90s, 2000s was apple juice. A bunch of lifters loved putting their creatine in apple juice after a lift, and it would bond to it and it would actually dissolve. So those are just the best ways to bond creatine to something to utilize it.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's very important. Like you were saying, like one point you brought up was how the manufacturing is changing, and people are just changing everything for mass production. And one thing that I've learned recently is just how important it is to pay attention on what you're putting into your body and the effects that it could produce. I mean, just personally, when it comes to lifting and working out, just when I actually started paying attention to the calories and the protein I was intaking, just those two things, like not really anything else, just calories and protein, two things I was tracking. And I was just to see massive results. I was able to put on 10 plus pounds of muscle, and I was able to cut 10 plus pounds of fat, like just by paying attention to those two things. And so it just comes to show, like, the closer you pay attention to what you're putting into your body and actually what you're buying at the store, like, what is this? How do they make this? What's the ingredients in this? Like the dramatic changes you can create in your life because of those things.
Oh yeah. That's I'd like to touch on that as well. For most men, majority of men, they don't know this, but most men, if they're sexually active, they will lose a certain amount of zinc because of it. So during that active time, upon like finishing whatever, you lose 5 milligrams of zinc. Not just sugars, you also lose zinc. And zinc is imperative for maintaining and keeping your testosterone levels at a higher spot or a healthy area. And most guys don't know that they actually need zinc in their diet to maintain their testosterone. And something that we've lost in our diet is zinc. So if you look at bananas have been genetically modified and a lot of different just variations to basically produce the biggest and the largest banana. And we've lost an incredible amount of macronutrients in them. And so to get your adequate amount of zinc, a lot of it goes back to bananas and other things that you could eat, but bananas are one of the foods with the higher concentration of zinc in it. But you'd have to eat 5 to 10 bananas a day now to get your 5 to 10 milligrams of zinc. And nobody's going to be eating 5 to 10 bananas a day. That's absolutely asinine. And so you've got to look for supplementation options to be able to put that back into your diet if you are active in those ways. If you are sexually active, you should be looking to make sure you're replacing those things that you need in your body to maintain healthy testosterone levels. And that, like you said, like a lot of our food is absolutely destroyed, and it has been bioengineered to just remove the quality, the actual macronutrients, the things that we need to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and they've just increased the mass of the food, just made the food bigger to fill our stomachs, which obviously we're seeing the negative effects of that every single day. Every time you walk out of your door and you walk into a Walmart, you can see the negative effects of that everywhere, which, it's sad, but it's real, and it's something that we can fix, though. It is something that we can just be more conscientious of and be able to attack every single day.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at it and look at all your foods. Do you know how your food was made? Just for example, like rice. Do you know how they made that white rice? What did they take out of the rice? Is that something I need? Is that something I need to substitute if I'm eating white rice? And the same thing with white pasta or white bread. Like, what's the difference between that and wheat? What did they take out? Is that something I need? Should I be getting that in other sources if I'm not eating it naturally. And those are very important things. And even, yeah, it's just crazy to see the change that they have made to just, they're just filling our stomachs. They're not giving us
Mhm.
our proteins. I mean, just looking at like any fast food restaurant, like look at the protein count in that. They're not giving you proteins. Proteins are expensive. They don't want to give you that. They want to
Yeah.
give you what's cheap and what's going to fill your stomach. They're going to give you a lot of carbs and
Mhm.
they're going to give you a lot of fat. And it's just crazy to see how everything's changed. I mean, just living in Brazil and actually like going to a lot of the farmers markets and seeing actually just the fruits there, and the fruits actually have the seeds. And it's crazy. It's like, what is this fruit? Or like they're
Yeah.
different colors. It's like, what is this fruit? No, it's the same
Mhm.
fruit, but they just genetically changed the crap out of it to make it more appealing and more, effective to market and sell and give to people. And it's just crazy to look at those type of things and actually learn. Is like, oh yeah, maybe I need to get some more fiber because I'm not eating brown rice,
Yeah.
or some other nutrients.
And dude, even brown rice. Like I was looking at this the other day. A lot of brown rices are actually a little more dangerous on the glycemic index. And you have to be conscientious of which brown rice you're eating because some of them will spike your insulin levels violently and then put you out. You'll just be passed out. And it's crazy because it's just how they've changed, well, how they've picked things to just make things more filling, just to fill your stomach with just crap, just mass and carbs. And I get why they do it. They're trying to feed a lot of people for very, very cheap. But that doesn't mean we should be taking part in it. Like we should be choosing the things that actually give us the benefits that we need, the actual nutrients that we need, the macronutrients. We need to figure out what we need. Because let's be honest, everybody's health teacher was a gym teacher that took the class just for the extra credit or the extra $80. And they didn't give a damn about teaching you anything. They didn't care at all. They're like, hey, if you look back at your health teacher across all the grades that you had, your health teacher was a gym coach that just took the class for the extra like credit or money that they could get from the class. And they didn't actually teach anything. Sometimes they did, but very seldom did they actually teach anything. And you didn't learn anything about creatine. You didn't learn anything about actual protein intake. Didn't learn anything about calories in that class. Maybe you did a little bit, but most people filled out the page, wrote the answers down that they needed, turned in the assignment, and then just talked to their homies for the remainder of the class. And the teacher was like, keep the sound at a 30%. And if you go above that, like I'm gonna yell at you. And like nobody got anything from that class. And so it's not really our fault. That's the thing, is it's not really everybody's fault that they're like this. It's just that the system has just screwed them, massively screwed them, and has given them no benefit, no actual interest in the general public's health. And so we have to go out and find out what we need. We have to go out and find out what our bodies need because none of our teachers told us. None of it. We didn't have, I mean, I do have to give my high school biology teacher credit. He took an incredible amount of time out of his day, every single day, to actually like correct things. It was like, no, you kids are doing this stupid. Like, this is crazy. This is what actually goes on in the body. And I only had him for like a year. And then all my other health teachers were just like, not it. And we have to be a little more vigilant on like what we're looking at, what we're like putting into our body, because a lot of it is just filler. A lot of it's just carbs, just a lot of carbs. And what people don't understand about carbohydrates is they're imperfect aminos. They don't have the other aminos to complete them, to create the proteins and the energies we need. So a lot of the carbs you eat, white rice, white bread, they're incomplete aminos, and your body's going to store that until it has the necessary aminos to complete it, to utilize it. And it'll use it for energy production, but you're going to have a lot more calories and a lot more filler that is going to be, it's just going to be stored until you can actually use it. So you want to look for things that are complete proteins, that complete each other, that are full, not just like the egg white. You want the yolk with the egg white to create a complete protein. Like, you've got to be looking at these things to make sure you're getting the complete thing so your body can use it for whatever you're trying to do, whatever, just daily life in general.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize though that white rice isn't bad. White pasta isn't bad. Heck, ice cream. We all like ice cream. It's not bad from time to time, but you just got to realize, does that fit into where I want to be? My goals. If I'm trying to lose weight, I got to take that into account on my daily calories, right? Or if I'm eating white rice, I got to realize what am I missing that I need to take with that? You know, what amino acids do I need to eat also to complement that white rice? And so I think it's important to realize that, you know, you don't have to cut certain things out of your diet. It's just you have to realize what actually are you taking, and then what are you going to have to do because you're eating those certain things. So,
Yeah, that's you actually said something that's incredibly important. You don't have to take anything out. And this is something that we need to understand about the human brain is when you try to remove something like a bad habit, the brain likes to fill empty spaces with something else. So a lot of people were like, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to quit whatever, and they try to quit smoking and they replace it with another bad habit. And they're like, now I'm drinking, like now I'm X, Y, and Z. And it's because your brain doesn't allow empty spaces to be there. It will automatically fill that space if you don't fill it. So the best thing you can do is replace whatever you're doing. Not just stop doing something. Just start replacing things. So don't just immediately cut out carbs. Don't just immediately cut out all white things. White rice, white, bread. Don't just immediately start cutting out pastas. Start adding things to your diet. More protein, more chicken, more beef, things with higher protein content, things that are complete proteins. And you'll find that you eat less of the other things. So it's like, all right, if I eat more beef, if I eat more pork, if I eat more chicken, fish, whatever, eat more nuts, you'll start eating less of the crappier carbs. Just start adding the healthier things to your diet, and you'll find yourself eating less of the other things. Yeah. But also be strategic about it. Be very strategic about it, and understand certain things will trigger specific reactions in the body. So one thing we know about sugar is it turns off that mechanism in the brain that says, I'm full, which isn't good. So if you're eating sugar, a lot of sugar, you're not going to get to a point where like, I'm full. You get to a point where like, I am completely gorged and I can't fit anything down. And we got to be conscious of these things because they stop us from knowing where the limit is. So yeah, don't try to just take everything out. Just start replacing things, right? Just start replacing things. The soda for the water, or just switch the soda to some juice. Make sure this juice doesn't have high fructose corn syrup in it. Make sure it's just 100% pressed orange juice. It's delicious. Everybody loves orange juice, apple juice. Just make sure it's the good stuff. And trust me, you opt for the orange juice over the soda, you're going to see immediate changes in your body, like immediate changes within the first week. So you don't have to start cutting things out. Just start adding the good things in, and you'll automatically start pushing the other things out. You get to a point where if you're eating a pound of beef a day, you're not eating that much carbs. You're like, I'm full. Like, I don't want the carbs. Like, I'll eat this much rice and I'm good. And you'll notice the changes in your body really quickly. You'll have more energy. You'll look better, feel better. Your skin will look clear. Everything just improves dramatically, and your body will start pushing out the things that you don't need. So yeah, there's no reason to just start cutting things out. Start just replacing things, because remember, an empty space will be automatically filled by the brain. It's its job to fill empty spaces. That's why we scroll. That's why we play video games. It's why we do things. It's because we can't just sit there and do nothing. The brain's like, this is an empty space. Do something with it. So you're going to start scrolling because the mind is now on. It's now moving. It's starting to do something. Granted, it's not always the best thing for us. We're bored eating. We're just filling that space. Like, I'm bored. I eat. So the brain likes to fill spaces, and it will fill the space with whatever's the path of least resistance. It'll be like, oh, this is easy. Just do this. Pull out your phone. Scroll. Now your brain's kind of on, but not really. It's just like observing and kind of using a little bit of brain power. But like I said, if people want to stop scrolling, yes, put your phone down, but replace it with something like a walk. If you want to stop scrolling, you have to replace that time with something else. People are like, I want to use social media less. I want to get off my phone. I realized that I spent 6 hours on my phone yesterday, and I'm just going to stop scrolling. I'm just going to put my phone down. And they're going to sit there. I'm going to be like, what do I do? God, this is terrible. And their brain's like, no, fill the space. All right, I'm going to eat. I'm not just going to eat carbs because I just want to fill the space. You have to replace it. You have to do something else because the brain will fill that space. So like people who want to quit social media or slow down their gaming or slow down whatever, that they find that they're participating a little too much and they feel that it's not really benefiting them, replace it. Do something else. Don't just try to cut that thing out. You will find yourself incredibly defeated. You'll find that it's literally impossible because the brain will just fill it with another vice. And that's the best way I've found to attack my vices, to attack scrolling, to attack like things that I find in my life that I create a little more mindless space. I'm like, all right, I need to cut out carbs. Like there was a time in my life where I was eating frozen pizzas every single night for like weeks, and I was like, my argument was like, yeah, I'm bulking, like I'm getting thick, and it's like, no, dude, like your acne is like through the roof, like you feel slow and sluggish, you're taking 2 hour naps in the middle of the day, like, and I tried to just quit pizza. I was like, I'm just gonna quit frozen pizzas, and I was like, oh, this isn't good. Let's just make curry every day. Like just make a ton of curry, and I was just like eating even more, and I was like, wait, this isn't good. I've got to be better about this. Nope, note this on curry. Curry's great, but there's a lot of carbs in white rice, right? And I had to learn like, okay, I just need to eat more protein. And so I was like, why don't I just start adding more beef to my evenings? Why don't I just like cook a couple chuck roasts, slow cook it for 2.5 hours in the oven, seasoning, sauces, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and just make an abundance of meat available. And once it's available, you're like, I'll just eat that. And you will find it is so much more filling, and you don't put on as much fat. You don't put on an excessive amount of weight. Your body utilizes that. And so yeah, that's my big thing is we should never try to just cut things out. Always try to replace things. Always just try to replace it with something that we do want to do.
Because I think it goes back with the 2 minutes whole deal. Is you got to do little changes. I think the body it doesn't like change. I mean, we all want these dramatic changes. We all want to see these results, and we always think of the result, but we don't necessarily think of the little actions that lead to that result. It's like, I want to get big in the gym, so you go to the gym, and then and then what? You got this guy that gets in the gym. He has no idea. It's like, but I want to get big, and that dies. And what you notice is these people with these big goals in mind, maybe they start a habit or something. The second something gets hard, or the second something unexpected comes, you're reverting back to your old bad habits. Is because the body doesn't like these dramatic changes. And so just by doing a little change, one little change, 2 minutes of your day, dissect what you need to do. Like, I want to get, big, I want to gain muscle. It's like, I'm going to go to the gym and do some curls for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to go home, and just starting with that. Or for example, me, like, I wanted to gain weight. It's like, can I buy some mass gainer and can I chug that in just a few minutes, just one a day? And I was able to gain a lot of weight. It's just these two little things that you're substituting your time for, or another habit for, that'll make dramatic changes in your life. You got to do just little by little, one goal a week. You got to take it small steps, and through these small steps and dissecting your big result that you want, you're going to get there easier than as if you're just trying to jump to it. You got to take step by step and doing these 2-minute goals every day. Is there a healthy vice? Is there healthy addictions? I mean, working out. I was just gonna say that. I was like, I'm addicted to working out. It could get bad, I guess, if it takes away from too much of anything is a bad thing. So I guess it could become a bad thing. But I mean, it's a good addiction for me, I guess. At least I think.
Yeah.
Except sometimes it's like someone's like, you want to go out and do something? I'm like, no, I gotta work out. I gotta get my workout in. It's probably like, I should have hung out with that guy. Oh well, I should have went on that date.
I observed that in 2022. People would be like, hey, you want to hang out? And dude, even with my girlfriend, all the time, she'd be like, hey, let's hang out. And I'm like, I want to go to the gym. Like, I really just want to work out. Like, fuck that, man. I don't want to hang out with you. Like, I want to go to the gym. It's like, it can be unhealthy at points, but I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, because I was like having a really down day. Like yesterday, vulnerable as hell. Like I was just like, the universe is kicking my ass, man. The universe is absolutely just kicking my ass. And I was like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? Like, what do I freaking do? Like, I'm feeling like down. I was like, bro, you didn't work out yesterday. And I was like, oh shit. Like, I gotta work out again. And the moment I literally just put on my pants and I went for a 2-mile run. The moment I came home, I was like, let's fucking go. And I did 100 push-ups, and I was like, yeah, this is how I'm supposed to feel. Like, this is how I'm supposed to be. Like, and I don't think working out could ever really be bad. I guess it can be if you start messing with PEDs and stuff like that, because
I think
becoming like,
the more I think about it, I think any addiction is bad because an addiction means you can't give it up. I mean, you can't give it up for a day. For example, like
Yeah.
if someone needs me, and they need my help, and I was like, no, I gotta work out. It's like I can't help that person, or like someone's like, hey, I'm having a bad day, you want to hang? I was like, no, I gotta work out. It's like when you can't give it up for a day. I think that's what makes it an addiction, and then it's a bad thing. And so
Yeah.
I could go along the line of every addiction is bad because I think the
Yeah.
healthiest way to work out is it's a lifestyle, it's a discipline. But if I need to take a day off to do something to help someone, to be with someone, like I can do that, and I think that's the healthiest way to go about that.
Well, also it goes back to listening to your body. Like if especially with working out, if you don't take the time to recover, like you're gonna get sick. Like when I was I think it was when I first started working out, when I really started working out. We started working out like freshman year. We're doing like calisthenics all the time. And freshman year I started going to the gym with Eric and Zach. And we would work out for 4 hours. Like we would work out the moment we got out of school, we went straight to the gym. We would be in the gym for 3 hours, and then we'd swim for like an hour. And after about 8 months, I ended up in the hospital. Like I was literally dying, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And my doctor was like, you're malnourished. Like you're losing everything. You're literally losing everything. You're not putting on any muscle. And I was like, what do you mean? I work out every single day, man. I want to get a six pack. He's like, it doesn't work like that. You need to listen to your body. And when it says it's time to sleep, it's time to sleep.
Yeah, recovery is important.
Dude, it is. Dude, and that actually goes back to something that I've always wanted to like share with everybody. And I think Andrew Tate or somebody talked about it being on, knowing when to be on and when to be off. And he had talked about something like a lot of people like to be a dim light. They like to kind of be on, and they think they're conserving energy. They're like, oh, I'm like kind of being on. And then sometimes like we think we always have to be on. Like my freshman year of high school, I was just like, work out, never recover. Like never fucking recover. And it was incredibly detrimental to my health. Like it was so bad for me. Remember, one, I wasn't eating any fucking protein. Like I wasn't drinking protein or eating enough. I remember we would hang out. What would we eat? We'd eat freaking fruit roll-ups and like Twizzlers. Like there was no protein in our diet whatsoever. Pop-Tarts. We were like, yeah, protein. We didn't know what we were talking about. We had no clue what we were talking about. We thought, remember our energy snack? We would take a Twizzler, a Red Vine, and we would wrap it in a fruit roll-up. And we pour sugar in the middle, or was it syrup? I can't remember.
I don't. It's been too long.
But we would put sugar and wrap this Red Vine in a fruit roll-up, and we'd eat this thing, and we called it our energy snack. I think that was like 6th grade when we did that shit. And we thought it gave us energy because it gave us energy for like a total of 10 minutes, and then we were knocked out in your room. We would just pass out. Me on the beanbag and you on your bed. You'd just be like clocked out. And we didn't know. And that's what happened my freshman year. I was just like eat. Like I would eat like the crappy foods, and then I wasn't eating protein. And dude, learning how to be on and off is incredibly important for recovery. I like to think of the first Star Wars, which I'll come back to that in a second. So Andrew Tate talks about it as like a lot of people are dim lights. They think they're like conserving energy when they're really not. And it's like watching TV or scrolling on your phone. It's you're being a dim light. You're not actually off. David Goggins talks about mental aid stations. Like he talks about his shower as a mental aid station where he's off, he's recovering. Or his bed, mental aid station, that's when you're off, you're recovering. Meditation time, like that's where you're off. That's where you're off. And you need to know when to be off. And then you need to know when to be on. And all the other times, you need to understand we're being dim lights. We're just like losing energy. We're just like letting energy go. And I don't know why, but my like brain made this connection when I was watching that video of Andrew Tate explaining this. I made this connection of the first Star Wars when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were fighting Darth Maul. And there's that scene that like Darth Maul like opens up, he's got this double like lightsaber, right? And they start going at him, right? And they get to this area where there's these laser walls that like close up, right? And all these like laser walls like close in between them. And Obi-Wan gets separated from Qui-Gon and Darth Maul fighting because, like, I think in the scene, Darth Maul like pushed, like used the Force to push like Obi-Wan back,
Yeah.
and Qui-Gon and Darth Maul are going at it, and then they get separated by this laser wall, right? And they're just like staring at each other for a second. And Darth Maul's got his blade, and he like tests the laser wall, and he can't get through it. And Qui-Gon immediately turns his lightsaber off. He kneels down and starts meditating. He immediately like sits down and starts meditating. He goes straight into off. And in my head, I think of like the reason he did that was to conserve energy completely. And I think that Darth Maul, just speaking, from just watching the movie, it's just a fantasy movie, but whatever. I think Darth Maul knew he could take one of them out. He knew he could take one of them out easily. And I think Qui-Gon knew that. And the way I perceive the scene, he knew that. And the best way he could make sure one of them won is if he conserved enough energy to take as much of Darth Maul's energy. And so in the scene, like, the wall opens up and Qui-Gon like takes out his lightsaber and starts going at Darth Maul, and it opens up to where Obi-Wan's back here and he's able to like catch up. And Darth Maul, stabs, he stabs Qui-Gon. But Obi-Wan's got enough energy to fuck him up at this point. And he does. He ends up cutting Darth Maul in half. But I truly think it's because Qui-Gon knows how to be on versus off. It shows the distinction, like, you can be on, and when you're not on, you should know to be off. You should know to, like, chill, meditate, close everything out, and just conserve your energy. Because if you think about it, if Darth Maul had done that, he probably would have been able to take both of them out. He was a Sith Lord, right? But no, he like didn't. He doesn't know when to be off. He just knows on, dim light, on. And that's what makes us lose. Like, that's what makes a loser, is somebody who's just on and then dim light. We have to learn to like when to shut things off.
I think it's an important concept of being able to be alone with yourself, and to meditate is, a word for it. But I think it's extremely hard. I mean, personally, and I think for a lot of people nowadays, it's just we need to be entertained. We need to be engaged with something. I read something the other day is, you want to make someone suffer. There's tons of ways you could do it, but you know what will really hurt them? Make them stare at a blank wall for an hour, and that'll really make them suffer, and they'll go crazy. And it's just like, wow, man, that's kind of weak. But it's true. I mean, people need this engagement all the time. But me personally, looking at my personal goals and how I want to develop my mind, I want to develop my thoughts, to be able to sit in silence with my thoughts and to meditate. That's just a skill I would love to better myself in, and I think it's extremely important for anyone to. I mean, you look at Buddhism and the whole value they add to meditation, and how calm and humble and all the good attributes they can acquire from that alone, it's just to be able to turn yourself off. And I mean, I'm just even thinking of like last night before I went to sleep. It's just how hard was it for me to stop my thoughts so I can actually sleep? Because, if you got too many racing thoughts, you're not going to go to sleep. I had tons of racing thoughts, and I could not fall asleep. It's like to be able to master the whole process of just shutting it off, and choosing to be silent at going to sleep. And I remember, I can't remember if it was the Dalai Lama, something I was reading, but he talked about death, and he talked about how meditation and sleep, they prepare you for that moment, right? And basically, he talked about every meditation session. He says he hopes he could be ready for death because he prepares his mind for it, and just becoming silent and accepting the silence. And so I think it's a very important concept in life, is to be able to embrace the silence and turn yourself off and just accept it, and accept the world for how it is, accept yourself for how you are, and just be alone with your thoughts, and then eventually just turn off and be one with everything. And so I think it's a beautiful concept, and something anyone could better themselves in, and something everyone is lacking in a modern day.
Oh yeah. Well, it's because everybody's a dim light. They think they're conserving energy by scrolling, by laying down and scrolling, but we're not. Like, we're still utilizing some sort of brain capacity, and we're losing energy. Like, we're losing actual energy, creative energy too, like real creative energy. because we're spending it looking at these things and then creating scenarios about those scenes. Like you see something that offends you or bothers you, and you're like, I would have done this, or I probably would have done this. You're using creative energy when you're doing that, and you're spending it. Like that's not that's not coming back to you. That's a spent investment. Like your thoughts are investments, and if we mindlessly spend them on the shit we're watching on YouTube or Facebook that like bothers us, that we have absolutely no control over, that's spent creative energy. That's creative energy we don't get back. And I learned this in 2022. So 2022, I spent 98% of that year completely alone. I spent it completely alone out of pure choice because I wanted to learn to be okay in here, completely okay in here. And so I spent every single day just learning how to turn off completely for like hours on end. And I just wrote so much. I wrote hundreds and hundreds of pages in 2022. And I've got this just corpus of information that I've just built up in 2022. I learned mycology. I learned horticulture. I learned so much. I learned about the art of actually changing the pH and TDS of soil to make an optimal living environment for plants, for mushrooms, for all these different things. And I've learned about vapor pressure deficits and making plants breathe just because I learned how to turn off. And I would turn off completely. And then this question would arise. Instead of like looking at Facebook and be like, oh, this pisses me off, this person does this wrong. Because I learned how to turn off, I'd like a question arise. Like, what happens when a plant's actually breathing? Like, what's going on? And I just looked it up and I learned about vapor pressure deficit. And I was like, holy crap. And now I have gained a piece of knowledge I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life. And it's going to give me an advantage when growing plants forever. Now I know how to grow plants better just because I learned how to turn off. And people think that like they're learning things when they're like watching TikToks. And Alex Hormozy calls it mental masturbate. That's what it is. It's just you're like looking at all this stuff and you're not actually collecting any information because the brain likes to remove information as fast as possible. And so you'll look at these things like, I'm learning all these like daily life hacks. Pick one. Tell me one right now. Tell me like a list of 10 of them that you can remember. A lot of them, the majority of them you forgot because you see it for a second, you're like, cool. And it's just like, you don't write it down. So you don't actually collect it. And your brain's just trying to forget information as fast as possible unless you assign value to it and what you're going to use it for in the future. Or unless you write it down. So people are just like basically just yerking the brain all day and then they don't collect anything.
Sure.
And they've spent all of their creative energy and they're like, man, I'm drained. Like I'm tired. 2022, I wasn't tired, dude. I did have like an incredible amount of like problems at the end of the year. I did have like a huge event that set me back mentally, but I was able to conquer it really quickly because I learned how to turn off. I learned how to like shut things off, go to the beach, sit down, watch the sunset. I get a lot of people don't get the beach in their lives, so this isn't something like you can still find a quiet place. You can still find a place where you just turn off, put your phone down, leave it at home. And I know that's the hardest thing to do because it's an extremity of the body now, but there is an absolute art in learning how to shut things off and turn off while you're still awake. The amount of information or questions that you'll gain that you'll actually assign value and learn and like actually obtain in your brain is amazing. And a lot of people are like, Tanner, you're so smart. You know all these different things. And I was like, no, dude, I just turn off. Like I just completely turn off. And then I ask a question and it's like, I really want to know the answer to this. So what is it? Because now my brain's like, this has value to me. And I write it all down. It's another thing. A lot of people have all these ideas. I have this quote that I like to say, and I think it's important. If you have an idea and you don't write it down, you deserve to lose the idea. And I think that's very true. If you have an idea and you don't write it down, you deserve to lose the idea.
Sure.
Because an idea that's not written down is not collected.
I mean, how are you valuing that idea?
Exactly. And so I know it bothers some people when they hear it. They're like, that's fucked up. I'm like, no. If you don't write it down, you deserve to lose it, and you're going to lose it. I guarantee you'll lose it. Because imagine if you think of all the ideas that you have in a day. You know you've got a lot. You know as you're watching your crap, whatever, as you're playing video games, as whatever you're doing, you have these ideas. And that's a good idea. And you don't write it down. But you know you have these epitomes, these moments of like, oh, that's genius. And if you start writing these things down, you will find billion-dollar ideas, million-dollar ideas. You'll find things that completely change your life, but we're not collecting them in like a pail of water, essentially. that's something that I've reverted back to, is collecting my ideas, making sure I collect them, because if I don't collect them, I deserve to lose them.
Well, I think it's interesting looking back at, how you're talking about just social media, for example, and
Hmm.
that actually relates to the nutrition side of things and the marketing, that we were talking about
Hmm.
earlier, and how dumbed down everything is. They're not trying to give you what's good for you. They're not giving you your nutritional knowledge, right? They're giving you what's gonna get you, right? They're gonna play with your lust, and they're gonna play with your vices, and what looks good, and they're not going to give you what's valuable. Even if there is something valuable, it's just cogged down with all this junk that it's hard to dissect and take the good things out of it. And
Hmm.
so I went to a training a while back. That was really cool. It talked about the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, and how our brain really wants to be subconscious. It's the lazy brain. It really wants to go subconscious, right? And so it's going to do everything
Hmm.
in its path to automate your life, to create just a flow. Wake up, eat, go to work, come back, go to sleep. It wants to create this flow, this easy routine, this rhythm, and it doesn't want you to think. It wants you to just kind of sit back and relax. And to do that, you
Hmm.
have to you have to be conscious with everything you do and all your decisions, and you have to, be engaged with everything you do. And so when it comes to even turning off and even just meditation, that's extremely conscious. That's not subconscious. You're not letting, your brain is going active. It's just you're actively going inactive. And so
Yeah.
it's really important to take your life and be conscious in your actions. And when you're scrolling on social media, just mindlessly scrolling, you're letting your subconscious take over. Your conscious isn't taking over, so you're not learning, you're not growing. You're just wasting time. You're sitting in the passenger seat of your life. You're not doing anything productive.
Yeah. No, that's I have a whole thing about that input output. Um, because it's true. Yeah, even in meditating, it's a conscious act of shutting a thought out. So like when you meditate, a lot of times you're like, "Oh, I've got that bill, or I've got that friend, or I've got that thing." And like you have these things that come into your mind, you have to make a conscious action of pruning those thoughts. You have to shut them off. Like, "Oh, I've got to that thing I've got to do." Nope, stop. It's hard work because the 95% of your day is unconscious. It's governed by habits that you've developed over years. And it's just programming. It's just programming that you have, that you've put there, that somebody's placed there, that you have. Like a lot of these habits people have, unhealthy habits, smoking, whatever, drinking. This is programming that you've just reinforced every day. Like these overthinking thoughts, it's just programming that we have, and you have to make an active conscious choice of changing that programming, of rewriting that programming. It's not going to be easy the first time. That's why, like, people are like, I try to shut off, like you said, you were trying to shut off your thoughts before going to bed. Best thing you can do for 2 minutes, be like, all right, I'm going to, for 2 minutes, I'm going to, any thought that comes to my mind, I'm going to attach it to a breath, and I'm going to exhale it out of my body. And I'm not going to think about it again. So, oh, that bill, it's gone. Oh, that friend, whatever, they're pissing me off, they did that. No, I'm putting it into my breath and I'm letting it leave the body, I'm not bringing it back. And it's a conscious thought, like it's a conscious act of like attaching it to something and pushing it away, getting it out of your head. And after 2 minutes, you're gonna have nothing going on in your head. You're gonna be like, I can relax now. Like I can let these shoulders like sink into the bed. I can let my scalp just like relax. But it's a conscious act. There's a conscious act that you have to
Well, it,
like
it brings me back
practice.
to when we first started meditating. I don't know if you remember that in high school.
Yeah,
On our lunch
I
break,
do.
we would listen to these
Yeah.
meditations, and just how we became kind of addicted to them because they were a really
Yeah.
cool experience that let us escape and let us recenter.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
unfortunately don't meditate, and I wish I did. I want to get back into it. And so I'm going to make a
Mhm.
personal goal, but just the idea of taking everything personal out and having it leave the brain, whatever. And then you
Mhm.
start focusing on your breath, just a
Mhm.
simple thought of your breath, and then the weight of your body and how your body feels. And it's really the process of just like becoming one with the earth and becoming calm and still and acceptance. And it's just a really cool process that I think anyone would really enjoy this experiencing for the first time, because just to be able to just completely relax and reset and focus your mind on literally like nothing. It's really cool.
It's an
And
incredible feeling.
it just brings me back to when we first tried it, because it's just crazy experience.
Dude, I remember the first time that I got you to meditate. So it was so I had a teacher, student council teacher, that made us meditate one morning, and she's like, everybody lay down or get in a comfortable position in your seat, and I'm gonna guide you through this meditation. I was like, this is the weirdest freaking thing to be doing in a class. Like, this isn't learning. And she guided us through this meditation, and like everybody, we all came out of it, and we're all just like, whoa, like this feels interesting. And so I got online and I found two meditations by this guy. And one of them was the leaf and one of them was the mountain meditation. And I started doing the leaf all the time. And I remember telling him, I was like, you gotta try this, you gotta try this, you gotta try this. And you're like, no, man, no, no, no. And then finally one day you're like, yeah, I'll try this. And I was like, all right, you're gonna put your headphones in, you're gonna go in the room, it's only 7 minutes long. And then afterwards, we'll do whatever you wanna do. And so you go into your room, and I'm sitting there at the center. I remember you go up the stairs, and there's that couch, and I sat on that couch right in the center of your parents' house. You went in your room, and I was just waiting, and I was just like fiddling around. And then finally, you come out of the room, and you're like, "Can we go for a walk?" And I was like, "Yes, we can." Like, we went for a walk, and you were like, "Man, I just really love everything right now. Like, everything feels so good." And you were talking very slow, but like you were very precise with your words, and you weren't in a rush. We just went on this like very like peaceful walk, and I knew that this was gonna happen because I made Jackson do it too, and he was just like, "Can we go for a walk?" And like everybody has the same experience afterwards. Like,
Walks are nice.
Look, and it's funny because there's a hack to meditating. So for a long time, I do the 7-minute meditation, or I do the 14-minute one, and it was like I don't want to take seven. Dude, even that was hard. Taking 7 minutes to freaking meditate. Like, and I'm like, a lot of times I would meditate and be like, man, I don't want to meditate for 7 minutes. Like, my thoughts are going everywhere. How do I do this? Like, how do I, like, conquer this and dumb it down to, like, getting this feeling a lot quicker? Because you know how it feels after you're done meditating. You're like, damn, I feel good. Like, everything feels like it's okay. Everything's okay. It's great. And so I've learned this tactic to meditating in under 2 minutes. And I think I should just share it. So I've gotten my brother to do it too. So he started doing it these last couple of weeks. So it comes down to breath work. So coolest thing, I love this. And I do this 3 times a day, literally 3 times a day. It takes 2 minutes each time I do it. So it's a total of 6 minutes of my day. And it's honestly making massive changes in my life. So it's 4 seconds in through the nose. So, and when you get to the end, breathe in even more, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt your lungs. It's going to be painful when you take that last little bit in. It'll feel like everything's cracking or whatever. And then you're going to do 8 seconds out through the mouth, okay? And get everything out until there's nothing left, and then try to push every last little bit out. It's going to feel like you're almost suffocating, and then do another 4 seconds in through the nose, and then 8 seconds out through the mouth. And you do this just a total of 10 times. That's a total of 120 seconds, okay? That's it, 120 seconds. 4 seconds in through the nose, 8 seconds out through the mouth, and get everything out. And if you have thoughts, or if you have anything coming to your mind in that time, attach it to your 8-second breath. Whatever is coming into your mind, nope, I'm putting it in the breath, and I'm making it leave the body. And just all the way out. And you'll have things that try to come to your mind. Oh, that bill, that whatever, this book, you need to dishes, car, oil change, whatever. Whatever's going to try to hit you, and attach it to the breath. And just 8 seconds out. Total, just 2 minutes. That's it. And at the end of that 2 minutes, you will feel completely different. Like, completely different. You'll be like, whoa. It's not going to be like that 7-minute leaf meditation that we used to do, because that one was freaking life-changing. But you'll get to a point where you're like, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do another little 2-minute thing. It only takes 2 minutes, and it completely changes, number one, your physiology. So it's giving me a gnarly jawline just because I've learned to breathe properly, apparently. I've always had a fairly nice jawline, but I feel like it's really pronounced, like my cheekbones, because it's given me a proper breathing technique, and it's helped me calm down 3 times in the day. I'm getting a total of 6 minutes of meditation in every single one of my days now, and I don't have to like dedicate 30 minutes or an hour to meditating. People think meditating, like I can do that shit for 30 minutes. Like, no, dude, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
Fuck that,
2 minutes. 2 minutes to life.
Yeah, 2 minutes to life, dude. 2 minutes to life, baby. That's all you gotta do. It'll change everything. Just try that. 4 minutes, not 4 minutes, 4 minutes breathing in. Could you imagine?
Ah!
I can't breathe. No. 4 seconds in through the nose, 8 seconds out through the mouth. Repeat it 10 times. Just drop your fingers as you're doing it for each breath. And at the end of it, you feel completely different. You want to continue? Continue. Just try 2 minutes of it. Honestly, it's just how I've learned to condense meditation to like 2 minutes and recenter myself. And one thing I try to employ in doing this, because what was really important about the leaf meditation is that you felt an immense amount of gratitude afterwards. You just felt grateful. This is why people want to meditate, is they want to feel better about the reality around them. And so employ gratitude when you're meditating. So a lot of things that I do is I'll go for a walk. And I know that doesn't seem like it's meditative, but it actually is for me. So I'll go for a walk and I'll do the breathing as I'm walking. Every time, instead of like attaching thoughts, as I'm breathing out, I'll think, thank you for my hands. Thank you for my body. Thank you for my hair. Thank you for my voice. I'll just start saying thank you, because that's what we want to feel after we meditate. That's the ultimate goal of meditation. It's like, I just want to feel better about my reality. I just want to feel better in general. And that better feeling that we have at the end of it is gratitude. That's what we're feeling. So when you're like, I want to go for a walk, everything you were saying on that walk was, man, these bushes are so nice. Like, they're so nice. Like, we don't realize like how much is around us, like how much we have. And I'm like, I know, it's so great, man. Like, it's so good. And like everything's just so amazing. Like the sky, like the air is really nice. And you were just incredibly grateful of your surroundings. That feeling that you had was gratitude. And that's what we want to feel more of. And so in this 2-minute meditation, just start saying shit that you're grateful for, and you won't have thoughts in your head of things that you don't like or things that are bothering you that are just like consuming your mind. Just start listing things off. Your eyes, the ability to see. Like that's something most people take for freaking granted. Your parents could have had a virus, like your mother could have had a virus or bacteria while we were in the womb, and you would have been born without sight. Like I know a family of children that don't have arms. That literally, like, a majority of these girls don't have arms because of something that happened during the pregnancy. Like, we have arms. That's a massive gift. We have eyesight. That's a huge gift. We have the ability to hear. That's a massive gift. You can smell. My brother couldn't smell for the first 16 years of his life. It was atrocious. Like, Daniel, smell this. And he'd go, it's like, no, your nose. He's like, I can't smell. Because he couldn't smell. Now he can smell. But we take these things for granted. And so 2-minute meditation, all you got to do is, I'm grateful for my hands. I'm grateful for my eyesight. Just pick the simple things that you want to be grateful for. At the end of this 2 minutes, you'll be like, wow, life's pretty damn good. So 2 minutes of life. That's all you got to do for easy meditation. Not that hard.
For anything.
For literally anything. Reading.
2 minutes.
Reading. 2 minutes to life. 2 minutes. Gang, gang. Just kidding. I need more coffee. I'm running well. I feel like I went on a tangent there. So passionate about meditating. I really am.
Yeah, I need to get back.
Year.
I think I need to figure out how to. It's hard. It's hard to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
I mean, just there's so much I want to do. I mean, my day seems to get shorter and shorter because there's so much I want to accomplish in a little time. But I guess
2 minutes.
I could find 2 minutes. Anyone could find
2 minutes.
2 minutes. It's easy.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, if you don't have 2 minutes, then don't do it. But let's be honest, everybody's got 2 minutes to spare.
Everybody has 2 minutes.
If we've got 2 minutes to watch a show.
That's one thing that bugs me. Is someone's like, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time.
Yeah.
It's like when I talk to girls and try to get them to come on dates, it's just like, I'm too busy. I don't have any time. It's like we could literally just spend a few minutes and go grab an ice cream or something. Like, it doesn't take a long time. So I think the whole I don't have time is an excuse. Everyone has time.
No.
Everyone can afford to do something. Like, if you want to take a step towards something, you will find the time to do that. If you truly want it, you could afford 2 minutes.
Yeah, everybody can afford 2 minutes. Everybody in the world. And this is another thing, is if you want to start attacking your health, like for most people, if anybody wants to attack their health, this is one thing that I've taught to so many people. This is what your doctor is going to say. This is what every physician is going to say. If you have the ability to walk, go take a 10-minute walk. That's it. Just do a 10-minute walk. Go walk. Just walk. You don't have to do much. Walk around the block. Do that every day. You don't have to go to the gym and bust your ass for an hour. Just start by going on a walk. Take a couple minutes out of your day. Just go for a walk. Just, you got the time to do a 5-minute walk, a 2-minute walk. Just start walking. That's it. And that's what we tell, like, that's what you, when you're somebody's like very, very overweight, just like morbidly obese, and they just got this excessive weight, like, I don't know what to do. It's like, just walk. Just walk a little bit. That's all it takes. Just start walking. Walk a little bit further. Each time, walk a little bit further. And it goes back to rehabilitation. So a lot of people are like, I don't want to run. I don't want to run. This is my biggest problem with people. Is when they're like, I don't want to run. Like, it hurts my joints. It fucking, like, I hate that shit. Like, to say to me you don't like running, just, you're being weak. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I just think that, like, you don't want to be the person that never runs again for the rest of your life. Like, think about that. Do I want to be the person that never runs again, ever again, for the rest of my life, and I have the ability to walk? That's a shame. Like, that is a huge shame. You don't have to run for long. Run for 2 minutes. Just run for 2 minutes. Then you're done. That's it. If you have the ability to walk and you can run a little bit and it's owie a little bit, just run for 2 minutes. And it's going to be owie. Anytime you try anything new, anything that you feel like you should be doing, at first it's going to be owie. Have you ever tried to pick up the guitar and play and hold a chord after never playing? Anytime anybody who plays guitar or has tried to play guitar, they go, damn, this hurts my fingers. This is owie. I am losing skin at the end of my fingers and this hurts. Anything you do is going to be owie. Anything you do is going to be owie. When you remember how I always broke my wrists growing up? I always had broken wrists, broken arms. I was always in a cast.
You're always breaking.
When you remove a cast, your wrist cannot bend. It hurts to bend it in any direction because it has been held in a specific position for 6 weeks, sometimes more. And the only way you get it to bend is by pushing against the resistance and just dealing with it, dealing with the owie. You don't want to. When you start to bend it, you're like, fuck, that hurts, man. That hurts. That's what physical therapy is. They go, okay, it hurts, just push a little bit more. All right, push again. All right, now let's push it a little bit further this time. Oh no, it hurts. It hurts really bad. Ow, fuck. Like, this hurts. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Let's take a second. Let's take a second. Let's breathe. Let's try again. And you push against that resistance again. Keep going. Just apply a little bit more pressure. And that's all it takes is when it starts getting owie, it starts hurting, just apply a little bit more pressure. But make sure you're hydrated. When it comes to the gym, always make sure you're hydrated because all it takes is 3% of dehydration to actually snap a muscle. So that's important. Yeah. So always make sure you're hydrated. But seriously,
drink your water.
When things start getting owie, understand that's okay. You're supposed to suck at the beginning. Like, if I never bent my wrists again after a cast, my arms would be in casts for the rest of my freaking life. Trust me, it hurts like a bitch when you get out of a cast. It doesn't feel good. You try to bend your arms, you try to do things with it, you're like, this sucks, this hurts, but you have to push against resistance. You have to bend it in the other directions. You have to deal with the owie. So that's why people are like, I don't like running because it makes my joints, it makes my ankles or like my back start to hurt or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I know, dude. Trust me, everything new you do is you're gonna feel a little bit of, owie, this hurts me. Like, that's the point. That's the point of resistance. You starting a business is gonna be owie. It's gonna be
I think
like, this looks like shit.
It's the discomfort that adds value to accomplishments. And so, I mean, I think anything in life that's really worth anything or has any value, it's going to be uncomfortable to push. You know, you're going to have to push against the resistance. I mean, to gain muscle, I mean, you have to work out, and working out, it's not easy. It hurts to lift weights. I mean, it's uncomfortable, and you have to push past that because that's how you're going to grow as in anything in life. Like, if it was easy, I mean, everyone would be doing it. And if it was easy, I don't think it would be worth it. I mean, it wouldn't be valuable. I mean, like, people wouldn't, who cares if you did it? I mean, that's what adds value to things, is that you pushed past it and you made something of the discomfort and you added value and achieved something. And that's what makes things great in life, accomplishments great, is just because you pushed it and you made it and you did it, although despite everything, all the discomfort and the pain.
That's something me and my brother have been talking about, is leaning into resistance. And it's a lot of, like, we feel resistance when we're like, oh, I want to quit this bad habit. Like, there's resistance in front of it. And James Clear's book talks about this. It's like everything's, you're always met with resistance when you're trying to pick up a habit or you're trying to quit a bad habit. There's always resistance. There's always some sort of resistance. And lean into that. Like, push against it. Like, when you're rehabilitating a wrist, you have to lean into it. You really have to push into it. And it's going to hurt. It's going to suck. Starting a business, don't try to just start a whole thing at once. Like, just start writing down things you want to sell, maybe things in your everyday life. Like, hey, this is something that's a part of my everyday life. Maybe I'd want to sell that. Maybe I'd want to start selling things like that. Write it down. Just write it down. Take 2 minutes to just write shit down. Like, I want to sell these things. It's 1% of a business. You just got out of the way. What would I call it? 2 minutes later, or the next day, you're like, what would I even call this business? Like, I love laying on couches, man. I want to sell couches. What would I call it? Like, you can literally take anything and turn it into a business, really. Just take 2 minutes out of your time, start writing things. Like, that's how I started my first store. Is I literally started scrolling through Wish, and I was like, what could I resell to people that I like that's a part of my day? And I picked something, I was like, oh, and I saved it. I just saved it to a wish list, and I made that wish list name business. And that was collecting it for later. I saved it for later. I was like, maybe I'll do it. I don't know. And then a couple hours later, I was like, maybe I'll look at it a little bit more. And so I started looking at a couple more items. I'm like, yeah, that one. I wonder if I could drop ship these things. That's literally how I started my first store. And that's all it takes to start a business. That's all it takes to do anything. It's just take a little bit of time out to just like, I could sell this, or I could start this. Like, remove the pressure, throw 2 minutes to it, just slap 2 minutes against it. Be like, we're gonna do for 2 minutes and collect all of it, all the information. Same thing with reading a book. A lot of people apply way too much pressure on reading a book. Like, I want to read this whole book. It's like, bro, that's 700 pages. Like, the only way you're going to get through 700 pages is a page at a time. Like, that's it. So just 2 minutes. And
Yeah.
within a couple of weeks, that book will be done. It will be read. It's better than trying to read for 30 minutes and never picking that book up again, because I've done it. You've done it. Everybody has done it. I'm going to read this book. They read for 30 minutes and they never touch that book again in their life. And that's embarrassing. That's like never running again.
Well, it's with any hobby. I think it's just we've all experienced where you start it and then you dive too deep and then you never touch it again, or you don't touch it again for a while. I've seen so many people with guitar, for example. They're like, oh, you have a guitar? I was like, yeah, I've had it since I was a kid. I was like, well, did you play? It's like, about once a year I'll pick it up and play for a week maybe, and it's just like, you gotta take it little by little, and then that's the only way you achieve things. It's just consistency with small time increments.
Dude, it's like eating a steak. You don't eat the whole damn thing at once. You take a bite at a time, and you chew on that bite. And sometimes they're really chewy, and you've got to just keep chewing away. You don't just gobble the whole thing up in one go. Everything is a single bite at a time. It's a single step at a time. What's that quote? The chains of destiny are, I can't remember what it is. It's like chains of destiny are grasped one link at a time. Like, it's little steps. And that's the whole point of all of this. It's just to show people you don't have to do a lot of shit at once. Just take little steps. I know people are gonna see us do a lot of shit at once, like with our challenges and whatnot. Like, and I think that's important, is knowing that you can get to those spaces where you are doing 1,000 push-ups, and people are gonna be like, there's no way I would do that. And the only way we got to being able to do that is literally like 10 reps at a time. Like, the first time you worked out, like the first time you ever trained, like, talk about that.
I don't remember the first time I worked out. I don't know. I mean, maybe it was when I was a kid.
And
it would have to be in my room, doing like a push-up or so, 5 push-ups.
I mean, not the first time you worked out, but like, what got you into working out? Like, what was the catalyst that was like, I'm going to do this? Because it's a part of our life. Like, it is literally.
Oh yeah.
everything.
No, I always say the first time it's just I saw that I was weak. I mean, I was in Boy Scouts and we were doing the merit badge for physical fitness, and everyone was doing push-ups, and you got one guy that could do 5, and one guy could do 8, one guy could do 10. I don't remember how much you could do. I don't know if you were there, but
Um,
I couldn't do one. I couldn't do one pull-up, and I was extremely embarrassed, and it was kind of shameful. Uh, but it was also constructive because it led me to working out, and it led me into a lifestyle habit of just taking care of my fitness, because I would never want to be in that position again where I couldn't do anything like that, and that was just embarrassing to me. So I never wanted to be in that position again. And now I could say that, like, I could do several pull-ups, and I could do most pull-ups than most people. And so it's just little things like that can lead into a lifestyle habit. Just like I don't want to be in that spot. I want to be better. I want to take care of
mhm.
myself. I mean, I remember seeing a clip the other day of there's this lady who couldn't he her child was in a crib, and it was just I don't know how she lost it, but it was strolling towards the street, and she just kept falling over herself trying to catch up to her baby who was about to die, about to get hit by the oncoming traffic, and she could not do it. And there was another man who luckily came and saved the kid and stopped the stroller, but that lady wasn't even in physical condition to take care of her kid. And so, I mean, having a family is one thing, but are you in physical condition to take care of yourself? I mean, can you
Yeah.
accomplish your daily tasks? Like, can you do everything you're meant to do? And like, and it just comes to show, it's like, look at the man who saved the child. Like, he was able to take care of himself. He's able to take care of others because he takes care of himself, and he has these things.
Mhm.
And it's just important to be able to, how capable am I? Am I capable enough
Mhm.
to take care of myself and take others? Am I good enough to help others around me? Am I an influence to others?
Mhm. Dude, it's so true. It's crazy because a lot of people will have kids before they can ever take care of themselves. And we see it a lot after high school. A lot of friends will just like get married and have kids, but they can't even take care of themselves. My father talked about this once. He, I believe he shared this story with me once. He was once engaged to a gal before he had married my mother. He was once engaged to this gal, and he was like, "I'm going to marry this girl," right? He had just come home from his mission. He didn't have a nickel to his name, like didn't have anything to his name. He's like, "I want to marry this girl." And his mother came into his room and put a pot in front of him. And she goes, "Matt, you don't have a pot to piss in. What makes you think you're going to marry this girl?" My dad was like, "Oh, snap." And that week he broke off the engagement. He was like, "No, like, I've got nothing to show for myself. There's no way in the world I can think that I'm ready to get married." And I think it's just a lot of people rush into it. They think like, "Oh yeah, like I want the reward, but I don't want to put in the work." Like, there's an incredible amount of work before getting married, before having a kid. And to think you can just rush into it, create life, and not be there for that life or not show up for that life, society is going to eat you alive. Like, it will eat you alive for that decision. And you're going to pay for that decision for a long time. Your kids will make you pay for that decision. Your friends, your family, everybody's going to make you pay for that decision. And I think it just comes back to like how much, like you said, how much can you actually take care of yourself? Like, how much can you actually do for yourself before you have kids, before you have a relationship? How much can you do for yourself? Like, can you run? Like, can you eat healthier? Can you read a book? You take the time for yourself, because if you can't follow through on those commitments, if we can't follow through those commitments with ourselves, there's no way in hell we're going to follow through commitments with others. Which something that I learned this last year is, and I hope this doesn't get me canceled, is depression is a result of self-talk. And it's a result of the way we speak to ourselves. And it comes down to our agreements. And when we look at suicidality, which follows depression, okay, I truly believe that suicidality comes from not keeping our agreements with ourselves above others. Okay, it's when we show ourselves the amount of disrespect that we wouldn't like. And this comes back to like when you set up a date with a friend and you say, hey, let's go to breakfast tomorrow. And they're like, yeah, I'm 100% down. Let's do it. Let's meet at Starbucks, wherever, at 8 a.m. 8 a.m., like 7:45, you're ready, you get in the car, you're on your way, and they message you and they're like, hey, I've got to cancel. I got something going. How does it feel? It's like, damn. All right, well, like, I'm not going to take it. Me personally, it's like, I'm not going to take it personally, whatever. But a lot of people are like, damn, that sucks. Like, I really wanted to see that friend. Like, it sucks. It hurts. It's the same thing when you do it to yourself. When you say, I'm going to eat healthier tonight, or I'm going to eat healthier this morning, and then you don't show up for yourself. You don't follow through on that agreement. And though the feeling isn't immediate, though that disappointment isn't immediate, it's spread out like butter over your day. It's this like, you didn't keep your agreement with me. This hurts. And it results in depression. And then our friends are like, hey, let's go do this. And you're like, yeah, and you show up. You then show up to that event, but you didn't show up for yourself that morning. You track those. Your brain tracks those things. And this is what leads to depression and suicidality, is not keeping our agreements with ourselves first. We can say like, oh, it's important to keep your agreements with others. No, you should be keeping your agreements with yourself first, above all else. And the agreements you make with others will become gold. They will become absolute gold. And I truly believe this, because the times that I felt suicidal, the times in my life, because I killed suicidality in 2019. And the way I did it was keeping my agreements with myself. Like, you make a mistake, or you make a choice. I don't like to think of mistakes. I don't think they're real. I think they're just choices. We make choices, and we see them. We notice them. We notice the choices we make. And when we don't follow through on those agreements we're making with ourselves, it hurts us just as much as somebody not following through on agreement with us. They're like, hey, I'm going to do this challenge with you. I'm going to do 100 push-ups with you. And then they don't do it. You're like, damn, bro, like whatever. It sucks. But it's the same thing when we don't do it for ourselves. In the moment you make an agreement with yourself, you've made it. It's done. So it's like, I'm going to do 100 push-ups. It doesn't matter if you try to reschedule. It's the same thing as like, you're trying to show up for the event and your friend's like, hey, let's reschedule the next Monday. You're like, damn, all right, then. Next Monday comes around, neither of you text. Neither of you say anything, nobody shows up. That disappointment is still there and you still feel it. You're like, damn, we didn't show up. Like, that sucks. Still would have loved to see them. They should have texted me. Like, yeah, you kind of want to point the blame finger or whatever, but you feel that disappointment. And it's the same thing within ourselves when we don't follow through. It's like, I'm gonna go work out today. I'm gonna go do a walk. I'm gonna go do a run. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do the run tomorrow. The disappointment is still there. It's now spread out. And then tomorrow, you just pretend like you did, like, whatever, I'll do it another time. That disappointment is now spread out throughout the week. And until you remake that agreement and you follow through, that depression will still be there. It will still be there until you remake an agreement and you start following through on your agreements with yourself above all else. And I think that's one of the fastest ways to kill depression, is start making little agreements, 2-minute agreements, and following through on that agreement. You will feel monumentously different. Like, everything in your life will change just following through on little agreements with yourself. I'm going to eat healthier. Follow through. If you don't follow through, guess what's striking? Depression. And it will come like a thief in the night and steal all of your happiness. It's because it's just these little agreements that we're not keeping with ourselves, but we keep the agreements with other people. It shows us that we're not valuable. So your agreements with yourself are not valuable, but other people are more valuable. That's depression. That's what results in depression.
It reminds me of the book, The Four Agreements. Like,
such a good book.
The Toltec wisdom that it talks about is just inspiring thoughts. It's one of my favorite books. It's just how you have certain agreements, basically, and they talk about 4 of them. There's even another book I think called The Fifth Agreement, but the whole concept is just basically being honest and true to yourself. And by keeping honest and true to yourself, then you're able to cure depression. You're able to conquer anything, really. It's just, I'm going to be honest with myself, and when ideas come to my head, like how I want to be better in this, and I want to do this, or I should be doing this, right? Because it's good for me, and I know it is. And you don't listen to those thoughts, and it's yourself, really, you're not listening to, and thus you're creating a contention with yourself, and thus it's not going to settle well with you, and you're going to have problems in the long run, whether it comes to mental health or physical health even. It's just because you should be listening to these things. If you know you should be doing something and you don't do it, and then you have this conflicting thing in your head going on, and until you resolve that. And so it's just really
Mm-hmm.
important to listen to these thoughts and seek after these things. If you know you should be doing, accept that and do it, and take 2 minutes and work towards it, because then you're going to not have this conflicting thought, as you're going to have this peaceful resolution going forward with all these ideas. So
Yeah. And I would challenge most people to look at everybody has an agreement they can think about in the last week where they didn't follow through with. They look at an agreement they made with themselves, not with others, that they didn't follow through. I would challenge everybody to look at that agreement and attack it. Just try. Just look at it and be like, I'm going to attack this agreement now. I'm going to try this now. I'm just going to apply 2 minutes, and that will be enough. I'm saying right now that 2 minutes that I'm going to utilize to attack this thing is going to be enough. And when you do that, afterwards, you will feel an amazing sense of relief just pulled off of your shoulders, because you don't realize that those agreements are still there. They're like chains on your back. They don't go away. They're still all there. It's like, I'm going to start eating apples more. Don't eat apples. And you just like, every so often you're like, I should eat more apples. I should eat more apples. I need to be eating more apples. And it's because that agreement is still there. It never left. You made the agreement, but you never followed through. It's like, I still need to start running 4 miles a week. I need to start running 4 miles a week. And it's like, I didn't run 4 miles last week. If you follow through on that agreement this week, that chain will leave your body. It will be released, and you'll be like, I feel so much better. Like, I'm going to start doing this. You have these agreements that you can consciously immediately be like, call upon, be like, yeah, I can do that. If you just do it now, just try it now. Just start attacking those little agreements you made with yourself. Those wins will stack for you. They are bets on you. You are betting on yourself. You are saying, I'm betting on myself that I'm going to win. And when you stack that, that's irrefutable proof that you are who you want to be. It's irrefutable proof to your subconscious. Is like, I am the person I want to become. So attack those little ones. We have all of these agreements. Try to stop making so many more agreements and pick the ones that just, you could do, that you made this last week, that you just didn't do, but you have access or the ability to attack it. And pick one of those agreements, any one of those agreements, and just apply the 2-minute rule to it. Just throw 2 minutes at it. Like, I'm going to read that book 2 minutes. That's it. I don't care. Like, just 2 minutes, and that's enough for me. That's enough for me. And I guarantee you'll feel 100% different. You'll be like, damn, okay. Afterwards, you'll have that relief. You'll be like, I did it. I followed through on my agreement. And depression, if it's a part of your life, will just quickly start disintegrating. It'll just start to be removed from your back. These chains will just start to unlink from you. That's something that I was able to utilize to kill my depression. Straight up just kill it. And suicidality left because of this. Like, it doesn't exist in my body. I had it for 9 years, just had this constant desire. And it was terrible. It was horrible. It was just leech that was just like eating at me. And it was because I wasn't keeping my agreements with myself. And when you see that, you see weakness. When we don't follow through on the agreements with ourselves, we see it as weakness. And we're like, I'm weak. And we have a desire to destroy that weakness. That's the result of not keeping those agreements. That's what that is. When you move past depression and you go into that realm of absolute danger of like, oh crap, this isn't good, that's because you've stacked up agreements that you are not keeping with yourself. And the best thing you can do is start picking the things that you have the control to change, and just throw 2 minutes at it. I'm going to do it. 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. And you will watch depression leave your life at an exponential rate. Violently just leave your life. And you will find an incredible amount of happiness. Because it's just stacking wins. That's all it is learning how to stack wins and following through on the agreements. Now the agreement's done. The contract is made, it's followed through, and it can go away. It's done now. You've made it. You've done it. If you want to make another agreement, the same one for next week, follow through on it. Make sure you show up for yourself more than you show up for other people. Like, showing up for other people doesn't do the work it would do for yourself. It's a completely different thing. And trust me, people will show up a lot more for other people if they learn to show up for themselves first. It goes back to taking care of your kids. You want to take care of your kids, learn to take care of yourself first. Learn to show up and follow through on the agreements you make for yourself. Because if you don't, your kids are going to be mad disappointed that you never show up for their agreements that you've made with them. And it'll just be a habit. It's like, I don't follow the agreements myself. Why should I follow through with them on you, man? Like, you're just another little genetic prodigy of me. That's the result of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went off on a hard one there.
You're right.
Oh no.
Yeah, we should probably end it.
Well, I think we should get into goals for this week. We do this every week. We set goals for ourselves. So I'm just gonna ask you, what's your fitness goal for this week? What's a thing you just want to accomplish fitness-wise this week?
So during my cut, I've been focusing on my calisthenics, and so I'm gonna continue to do so. Uh, so I've been going up five push-ups every week, just trying to get my maximum push-ups in one setup as high as I can get it. And so I'm gonna try for 95 this week.
Damn. Okay, 95 push-ups in just one set.
One set.
Holy crap, man! All right, that's impressive as hell. All right, that's your goal, fitness goal for this week. Intellectual goal, book-wise, what do you want to do intellectually? Books. What do you want to accomplish this week?
Let's see. I mean, I'm reading a book right now, How to Talk to Anyone. So I'd like to finish that this week. I mean, I guess that's a good intellectual goal. Yeah, to try to finish that this week.
Okay.
It's a good book.
Then, I guess we can't talk about the other goals. I guess fitness, intellectual. I mean, business. That's us. That's the work we're doing, business wise. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
All right.
What about your goals?
What?
I said, what about your goals?
Okay. My fitness goal this week. So because of that power stance thing that I learned this morning that I sent you, I know that's not huge, but I want to try that this week, power stance. So I want to do 2 minutes power stance every day. Apparently it increases testosterone by 20%. So that's all I got to do is just stand in a power stance every morning. I'm going to do it every morning upon waking. I'm going to do 2 minutes of a power stance every morning. And I want to just be consistent with that every day for the next week. It's just 7 days, 2 minutes of power stance. So that's my fitness goal. And then intellectual goal, I've been reading a lot of Neville Goddard's work. Last week I read his Awakened Imagination again, which is a really short read, but I really enjoy it. This week I had started Your Faith is Your Fortune by Neville Goddard, so I want to finish that. I'm like halfway through. I think it's like 160 pages. It's not a big book, but I just want to finish that one this week. So Your Faith is Your Fortune. It's the one I want to finish. So
Sweet.
Those are my goals. All right.
Nice.
Well, let's reconvene next week. Same time.
Same time, same place.
Same plan. Maybe. Yeah, I actually might. We'll see. I might be in a different room next week. Moving my stuff over. So, background might be a little bit different, but I'll try to keep everything else lighting whatnot the same. But yeah, let's do it. I love it, man. I feel like this is good.
It'll be good.
2 minutes to life.
2 minutes to life.